Hey guys, I'm Azra, and in this Lord of the Rings Rise to War video, I'm going to show you a guide about Isildur, one of the best commanders on good side, and let's get started. This commander is from his typing a leader, which fits his skill set fine. This works just perfect with it. And then in regards to his stats, like might, focus and speed, the most important thing to notice here is that he wants to have as much might as possible, because he has a skill called Great King, that is his bottom respect 0 skill. It's going to boost the damage of his units after round 2 for 3 rounds. So the more might, the more damage your units are going to deal. And the rest of these stats like speed and focus aren't really scaling any of your skills, because none of those mechanics are built into your skills. So might, go all in into your might stat. And then in regards to the gear, I'm trying out the melee build right now, which I'm also going to show you later. In this video, I'm going to show you two builds. The first one being his strongest build in my opinion, his ranged build. And then his second build is going to be a melee build, which I am trying out right now. So I have a cutlass with melee might right now, a halberd with fire protection, a bone mask with hysteria, and a hiflane with mend. Alright, now let's jump over to the skills and let me show you his strongest build, the ranged build. To understand the ranged build, let me go over the skills quickly. So Great King is one of your best skills you have. This title is going to minimize the damage you receive on round 1, and remember, this game is heavily revolving around early damage in the first rounds. So Great King is mitigating in the first round a lot of damage, and then after round 2, for 3 rounds, you get a damage boost which scales with might for your units. And when you max it out, you also get plus 20 might for your army. So Great King is one of the best skills in the game. You should definitely max it out. And then you also have Consequence of Greed. This is going to inflict madness on your enemy units. On round 1, this is a strong opener. And then you can also increase the damage you deal against enemy units by picking Enfeeble. Whenever a unit is affected by madness, you deal even more damage against those units. Like, look at this, plus 40%, that is a lot. For this to activate, you don't have to make the enemy army go mad in the sense of they attack their own units. It is enough to just afflict them with madness. At respect 3, he has King of all the Dunedain as his title, and this is going to give your Rangers, Dunedains and Rangers of the North a chance to follow up. If you max it out, I think it's going to be 45%, which is very high. Once you have maxed out King of all the Dunedains, your Rangers, Dunedains and Rangers of the North get plus 3 HP. And you shouldn't underestimate plus HP, because Isildur has various ways to stack HP, and then it's really going to add up. But we aren't really here for King of all the Dunedains. We are here because we want this plus 2 attack for our man units. Dunedain Bloodlines, we want to put 1 point into this, and then we are already good to continue. Plus 2 attack just to have this for your man unit. And then at respect 5, Last Alliance is his title. This too is one of his strongest skills Isildur has. What this is going to do is it's going to mitigate the damage you're going to receive by 90% for the next hits received. But this only counts when you have man and elven units in your army. So as long as you have this mix in your army, this skill is active. This skill is also gradually decreasing after you take damage. So it isn't always flat 90% damage mitigation. It's going to decrease bit by bit. Once you have maxed it out, you also get plus 1 attack for your elven units and plus 2 HP for your man unit. And then you also have Coalition, also a very strong skill. Your man units get a 75% chance to deal maximum amount of damage when this is maxed out. And your elven units get a 75% chance to gain initiative. And this is great, like this works perfectly fine. You will have man and elven units in your army anyway. Let me also quickly show you how I would spend my skill points into my tree when I am leveling Isildur. So first things first, I would like to have a few points into Great King, like 2 points here and then 1 point into Consequence of Greed. Then I would go back and forth between these two skills until they are maxed out. and then I would go over to Enfeeble, max this out. Then I would jump over to King of all the Dunedains, put 2 points into it, and then 1 point into Dunedain Bloodline, followed up by Last Alliance. 2 points into Last Alliance, 1 point into Coalition, and then go back and forth between these two skills until they are maxed out. Once that is done, go over to Free People and spend whatever skills I have into this skill. Should I have any more leftover points, I would spend them into King of all the Dunedains just to have access to Champion of the Light. Like, I would go back and forth between his Respects 3 title and Champion of the Light to have some additional power against Orcs, Urukais and Trolls. And there you go, this is Isildur's ranged build. Now let me show you how you can build your Isildur around his melee build. So as you see, this is the build. You will have Heralds, Dunedains and Rangers in your army comp. You can start this build like this. This is what I do. 2 points into Great King, 1 point into Consequence of Greed, and then go back and forth between these two skills. And once these two skills are maxed out, you go over to Enfeeble, max this out, and then you go over to King of all the Dunedain, spend 2 points here, 1 point into Dunedain Bloodline just to get the plus attack right off the bat, and then go back to King of all the Dunedains, max this out, and then you're ready to go over to Last Alliance and then max this out. And if you have any more leftover points from here onwards, I would either spend them into Coalition or into Champion of the Light. Like, I still don't know, I have to see which one works better. So Coalition would make sense because of getting a chance to deal highest damage with your man units. Rangers and Dunedains have a big range between their minimum and maximum damage. So because of that very reason, Coalition would make a lot of sense. But maybe I'm wrong, maybe Champion of the Light is the go-to, but keep in mind, this will give you no benefit against evil men. So maybe this is the reason why we should go with Coalition, since this is more universal. But there you go, this is the melee build. Now let me quickly summarize what strengths and weaknesses Isildur has. We're gonna start with his strengths. His first strength is, for sure, that this commander has lots of damage mitigation. Be it burst damage mitigation or general, like flat damage mitigation for the 10 rounds. His burst damage mitigation starts already on round 1. As you see, Great King is minimizing the damage the enemy army is going to deal against his army. On top of that, he also has Last Alliance. You see, this is like very strong damage mitigation for the next 7 hits you're going to receive. And also you can have some flat damage mitigation with Free Peoples. His second strength would be that he is exceptionally good in boosting the damage of his army. He does it with, again, like Great King, because it has this built into it. On round 2, you start to increase the damage of your army by a certain percentage. This skates with might. This is also why you want to have as much might as possible. And this lasts for 3 rounds. So you get some damage boost from here. You also get some damage boost whenever a target is inflicted with madness from Enfeeble. You also get damage boost by picking King of all the Dunedains, because here you get a chance to follow up, and this is a lot, 45%. And then you can also have Champion of the Light if you have leftover points, and also Coalition to deal even more damage with your man units. His third strength would be that he has a strong madness mechanic. Like, already on round 1, you go in hard with inflicting everybody in the enemy army with madness. And this is going to deal lots of damage because we also have Enfeeble. Last but not least, what I like about his strengths is his low upkeep cost. He has, be it in his ranged build or in his melee build, easy to conscript units. Like, all of his units are infantry units, and that is exceptionally cheap. You can run this all day long. Let's also summarize his weaknesses, starting with crowd control. He is very weak against madness. All of these skills are good, but whenever you are fighting against a Sauron, Grimar or another Isildur, like generally speaking against madness mechanics, you are kinda nuking yourself, and it's coming down to who has better madness procs. Is it you or your enemy? You're also weak against stun, because what you do is you boost the damage of your units, but they can't deal damage if they are stun locked. right? His second weakness would be that he is kind of vulnerable against enemy commanders who are immune against madness. Like, look at this. Consequence of Greed and Enfeeble are part of his main kit, but this is going to be countered by Madness immunity. That could be Aegis or Aegis, I don't know how to pronounce it. It could be Resolve, like the Horseman's Helm, it has a special effect Resolve. Or how about the Respect 5 titles maxed out effect of Gorbak, Watchman of Kirith Ungol. His Orc units become immune against Madness, and that too is a hardcore counter against Isildur. His third weakness would be, well, I think it is kinda obvious. As long as you don't have Pursuit in your kit, you are weak against Evade. Next weakness would be Elemental Damage, because we have nothing that is mitigating elemental damage. We only have flat damage mitigation, like this on round 1 is mitigating damage in general, and then Last Alliance is mitigating damage in general. But we have nothing that mitigates elemental damage for the whole of the 10 rounds. Last weakness would be, when you are running him in his ranged army composition, he is weak against a buff called Nimbleness, because that is decreasing the damage ranged units are going to deal against enemy units, and also a debuff called Dishearten, because that will throw a debuff on your army that's going to decrease the damage your army is dealing. So these two mechanics are also strong against Isildur's ranged build. The Undying has both skills, he has lots of potential to counter Isildur. In regards to Isildur's gear, I'm going to start showing which items I would equip if I was to run him in his ranged build, which I consider his strongest build. So as a weapon I would go with the Midwood Bow. It has lots of might which he wants, but above all it has plus attack force, ranged units, and this is going to add up a lot. It has also ranged might, even more damage for your ranged units. In regards to his chess pieces, you do have a few options over here, like the Superior Hauberk whenever you are fighting Evil Side. It has lots of might and plus defense, and this defense stat also counts for your ranged units. That is great. That's not always the case, but it has fire protection, and we need this against Witch Kings. If you are fighting against good side or against, let's say, lots of focus damage dealing commanders or units such as Oathbreakers, Gandalf the White, Galadriel, or how about Sauron in his focus damage dealing build, you may want to run the Quilted Armor instead. In regards to his headpiece, I would definitely run the Trapper Sword. This is going to further increase the damage of your ranged units because of the +3 attack, and it has Hysteria. You need Hysteria for Enfeeble to work. That means you're going to deal even more damage with it. As our accessory, I would definitely run the Wizard's Fireworks because, again, lots of plus attack for your ranged units. And look at this, we have provided +3 attack here, +3 attack here, followed up by Wizard's Firework. That means we have provided +9 attack for our ranged units just by equipping these items here. And also ranged might for this accessory as well, even more damage. What I also like about this item is it has Hunter's Mark as an alternative special effect, which you may want to use to counter strong evading mechanics such as Gil-galad or Gothmog or let's say Grimar. So you are kind of versatile by having this accessory. You can go back and forth between these two special effects, whatever suits your situation. If I could decide which golden items I want to run on my Isildur, it would definitely be these items over here. Gigantic Hammer, tons of might, +6 attack, like your ranged units are going to benefit by this a lot. And also, your army is going to ignore the defensive stat by a certain percentage. That is kind of crazy, so this means more physical damage for your army. As a chess piece, you definitely want to run the Ranger's Shroud in his ranged build because, again, enough might, +3 attack for your ranged units, and also this is covering your elemental damage weakness. This is just great. And then having a look at this headpiece, you definitely want to have the Hunter's Guide because, again, lots of might, plus attack for your ranged units, but it has Aegis or Aegis. This is going to make you immune against stun and madness for the first 4 rounds, and this is one of your biggest weaknesses. You are covering it by having this special effect. Everything looks so amazing right now. The gear pieces for Isildur fit his skill set a lot, and this is topped by his accessory, Nightstar. Like, okay, it could have more might, but this isn't why we are here. The main reason why we are here is because of the special effect Opportune Strike. It's going to give you a certain percentage chance to deal maximum damage with your units. And once you have maxed this out, it is 100% chance to cause maximum damage. And this goes exceptionally well with Isildur, be it in his ranged build or in his melee build. Let me also follow up with the melee build for Isildur, and by the way, I can't take credit for this build because we have some Russian players in our community and they came up with this idea. I tried it out, it is kinda decent, you can run this on a budget and it works exceptionally well, and even better against ranged army compositions. For this build to work, you want to have heralds, rangers and dunedains, and you can even go with an equal amount of those units or be very heavy on your dunedains. Here are the items which I would recommend. Cutlass for sure because of the +3 attack and also lots of might, followed up by melee might. Plus attack is going to go exceptionally well with infantry units. All of these units are infantry. What do I mean by that? First of all, they aren't mounted, but second, and this is the main reason, for one command you get 100 units. And those 100 units scale a lot with plus attack. And then as our chess pieces, well, the same logic just as in the ranged army composition. If you are fighting against evil side, it's going to be superior hauberk with fire protection. And then the quilted armor, whenever you notice, they throw a lot of focus damage against you. If you aren't scared of elemental damage at all because the enemy isn't bringing that against you, go with scale mail, because this is going to increase the defensive stat of your melee units and also make them a bit bulkier against damage in general, like -6% damage received against physical and elemental damage. As a headpiece, I would definitely run the Bone Mask. It has +3 HP and also a decent amount of might. But again, Hysteria, we need this to let our Enfeeble skill do some work. And we get another 3 HP if we have a look at our accessory. It's going to be the Hif Lane, a bit of might, +3 HP, and also Mend. Like, look at this, we have 3 HP here, 3 HP here, and also a bit of HP built into our skill set. That's going to give our army lots of HP. Now, having a look at his golden items, you again want to run the Gigantic Hammer. That goes without question, plus attack. Your infantry units are going to benefit by this a lot, and also by rend. Having a look at his chess pieces, we do have a few options over here, and this is just a theory of mine. Isildur is already providing lots of burst damage mitigation. Now, this leaves the question open, how about the later rounds? Maybe it is time to take care of damage mitigation for the later rounds with Tactical Retreat. Once you have reached round 6 and every round onwards, you will receive 30% less damage, be it elemental or physical. So this is something we should consider. We already provide damage mitigation for the first rounds with Great King and Last Alliance. But what about the later rounds? Maybe Tactical Retreat is the go-to. I still have to try it out, but I know for sure that against the Witch King this won't be enough, because Witch King is relying on burst damage a lot. In that case, you still want to run the superior hauberk with fire protection. But in any other cases, maybe the Plate of the Citadel with Tactical Retreat is the go-to. As a second chess piece, maybe the Warborn Battle Plate is also a good option. It has lots of might, lots of defense for your melee units, and also Fortitude of Soldiers to have flat damage mitigation for the 10 rounds. Having a look at his headpieces, we do have two options over here, but I do think that the Cask of Submerged Isle is the best in slot choice over here, because of Aegis. This is countering one of your biggest weaknesses. Stun and madness immunity is great. And it has also lots of might. We won't say no to this. And it has also lots of might. So this is further going to increase the damage of Great King. If you aren't afraid of stun and madness, maybe the Cask of Pride is the go-to. This is very hard to get for good side, but it has lots of might and plus defense for your melee units and also Fortitude of Soldiers. But keep in mind, you are going to be vulnerable against CC such as Stun and Madness. As our accessory, again, I think the best in slot choice is the Night Star because of Opportune Strike. I have already explained to you why. And as a second best in slot accessory, maybe the Box of Knowledge is the go-to. It has kind of a similar effect such as Night Star, like you do have a chance, a 60% chance to deal the highest amount of damage whenever your units are attacking, and a 60% chance to receive 9% less physical damage. So you get 2 chances of proccing these effect over here on each round. But what I also like about this box is it has plus 3 HP, and this goes exceptionally well with infantry units such as these. And there you go. These are my item suggestions for these 2 different builds, be it the range or the melee build. Now, does it make sense to invest into Isildur's Respect 10 item? And I believe that it kinda does, because like, look at this, lots of might. Once you further refine it, it has plus attack for man and elven units, and also plus HP for rangers, Dunedains, and rangers of the north. But on top of it, and this is what it's coming down to, what is making this so great, the special effect Sun and Moon Splendor. Once you have max refined this, you will have a 90% chance for the target to succumb to madness after each normal attack when your army is comprised of only man. But this isn't what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for this special effect. 90% chance to remove a buff from the target when your army is comprised of man and elven units. Isn't this kinda insane to remove a buff? This isn't cleanse. Cleanse is removing a debuff from your own army. This is a buff removal. I haven't seen a special effect that is removing a buff from the enemy army. Like, this is the first time I'm seeing it. And consider this. One of the strongest buffs in the game, called Convener, can be deleted with this special effect. Buffs in general, but I was thinking about Convener immediately. And this is kinda insane, right? I yet have to see some confirmed information about this, but just by theorizing about it, it sounds insane. If you are running your Isildur in his ranged army composition, I would highly recommend to have 3 ranged units in your army. That could be Sentinels, Watchmen of Dale go exceptionally well with Isildur, and sharpshooters. If you are running Arnor or you have access to Rangers of the North, feel free to replace your Watchmen of Dale with Rangers of the North, and I think that comp would be even stronger. If you don't have access to Watchmen of Dale, you can instead run Boses Hunters. Those 2 go well with Isildur. And in case you don't have access to Rangers of the North, Watchmen of Dale, or Boses Hunters, you can also run the composition like this. You just go over to your melee units. You can have like Dunedains in your army composition. And this army composition is going to counter enemy army compositions that rely on ranged units a lot, because your Dunedains are going to counter them hardcore. But instead of running Dunedains, you can also run Guards of the Tower. Just imagine me having filled in Guards of the Tower instead of Dunedains. Have an equal amount of those as well, and you are good to go. Like, having Guards of the Tower will help you countering mounted units even better. And this too works for Isildur's ranged build. But you can also replace your Guards of the Tower with Keepers. This too is a strong composition if you have access to these Keepers. Now let me also quickly show you the melee troop composition for Isildur, which is straightforward. You want to have 1 elven melee unit in your army comp. That could be Heralds or Keepers. And then you definitely want to have Rangers and Dunedains, because they will get 45% chance of gaining follow-up because of Isildur's Respect 5 title. And this works. For some reason, this troop composition works very well. And you may want to go back a bit with your Rangers a bit and instead have more Dunedains in your army composition. Let's cut back some Heralds and have even more Dunedains to have strong follow-up damage by them. Feel free to always have like an equal amount of these 3 units, because you can conscript them faster if they are equally distributed. It's time to share some battle reports, and in this case I am running Isildur in his ranged build. These are the items I have with him. Mirkwood Bow, just like in the start of this video, with ranged might. Hauberk with fire protection, Prepper Suit, Hysteria, and the Wizard's Firework with Hunter's Mark, just in case there are any Grimmars, Undyings or Gothmogs running around with the Evade. But in general, ranged might would have been better as a special effect. And the Khaldun is running this gear: Easterling Spear, Bane of Mounted Units, Superior Hauberk with Shroud, Prepper Suit with Hysteria, and Wizard's Fireworks. This is the outcome. Let's have a look in the snapshot page. We have dealt 200k damage versus around 160k damage. And here we see that our sharpshooters have done lots of damage. Like, this is good army damage. Another Khaldun report, and the gear of ours is staying the same. There hasn't changed anything, still Hunter's Mark. But in this case, I am running Guards of the Tower. And this Khaldun has this gear: Cutlass with melee might, Scale Mail with melee vigor, Easterling Helm with Fortitude of Evil Man, Bone Talisman with Evil Man strength. And you see, this is the outcome. Having Guards of the Tower is also kinda nice, because now we are countering the Dragoons. This is a snapshot page, around 190k damage from us, and we have received around 110k damage. And here is the detailed view. We see our sharpshooters again have done lots of damage. Here we are fighting a Grimoire. Let's check out the gear, it is pretty much the same. And this time we have included Keepers instead of Guards of the Tower. So this is a great idea, because these units have lots of defensive stats and Keepers are dealing lots of focus damage, so we are bypassing the high defensive stat. Let's look at Grimoire's gear. He has Urukai Broadsword with Orc Strength, Superior Hauberk with Shroud, Pepper's Hood with Hysteria, and Wizard's Firework with Hunter's Mark. This is a very good Grimoire. Let's see into the snapshot page. We have done around 250k damage versus around 150k damage. In a detailed view, we see that in this case, our Sentinels did the biggest chunk of our damage, followed by our Keepers. This is my second fight against a Grimoire player, and in this case, we have kind of lost the trade-off. Let's look what has happened. So I see we have Bone Knights in this army composition. I just wanted to try this out. Having two ranged elven units isn't working as great as two ranged man units. So Isildur, same gear, Grimoire, Cutlass with melee might, Scale Mail with melee vigor, Bone Musk with manipulate, and One-Out Smoking Pipe with sustain. A great Grimoire player for sure. And here we have done 180k damage versus 170k damage. In the detailed view, we see our Sentinels did the biggest chunk of our damage again. Now here is a Lord's fight. Our gear stays pretty much the same. We have reverted back to Watchman of Dale. I think this composition works the best in his ranged army composition. And let's check out Lord's gear. He has Urukai Broadsword with Pierce, also Scout's Mail with Deftness, Full Helm with melee vigor, Drums of Moria with Haste of Soldiers, and also high respect level, as you see. In the snapshot page, we see that we have done almost 290k damage versus around 90k damage. And in the detailed view, we see that all of our ranged units have done a decent amount of damage. Sentinels, the most damage. Here is a fight against a Witch King player, and we have Watchman of Dale. Alright, that is great. And this Witch King player has this gear: Cutlass with melee might, Goblin Armor with Gallant, Bone Musk with Hysteria, Drums of Moria with Haste of Soldiers. But guys, let me also tell you, the only way how we could win this fight is because of this armor: Superior Hauberk and Fire Protection. But guys, I'm telling you that if you don't equip the Superior Hauberk with Fire Protection against the Witch King, it is very likely that you are going to lose this trade-off. So the only reason we have won this fight is because of Fire Protection, Great King, and Last Alliance, like the synergy between these damage mitigating mechanics. In the snapshot page, we see we have done almost 330k damage versus 110k damage. And here we see Sentinels again have done our biggest damage. In this report, I'm fighting a Sauron player. We have the same troop composition and the same items, nothing has changed. Sauron has this gear: the Carver with Smite, Elven Cloak with Unity, Armor Cask with Tenacity, One-Out Smoking Pipe with Sustain. And he is running his Madness build, as I see. Alright, so Madness is a strong mechanic against Isildur. It's really coming down to whoever is more lucky with his Madness procs against the enemy. In this case, I was lucky. And one thing I could have changed here is the Superior Hauberk. I should have equipped the Quilted Armor with Focus Protection against Sauron. That would have made much more sense. Let's check out the snapshot page. We have done 350k damage, wow, that is a lot, versus around 160k damage. In a detailed view, we see that in this case, our Watchmen of Dale have done the biggest chunk of our damage. And here we have another Sauron fight. Remember when I said that it's coming down to whoever is more lucky with his madness procs? Like, this is a good example. My Isildur, in this case, has equipped the quilted armor with focus protection, but the madness was on Sauron's side. His gear is this: Power of a Smite, massive breastplate with resilience of giants, ancient Numenorian helm with shock, and fine smoking pipe with critical care. He is running the madness build too, so as you see, he was more lucky with the madness proc. In the snapshot page, we see that we have done around 220k damage versus 230k damage. We have lost this fight, and our sentinels are nowhere near to the damage they were dealing in the battle reports from before. Here is a Sunint report. My gear is staying the same, like with the superior Hobbeck and fire protection in this case. I am running Guns of the Tower this time. This is kind of nice to counter the T4 Angmar units. And then let's have a look at the gear. Gigantic Hammer with Rend, Protection of Numenor with Resilience of Evil Man, Hunter's Guide with Aegis, and Wizard's Fireworks with Hunter's Mark. And this is a Respect 5 Sunint, so this is the strongest build for her, and this is the outcome. Let's see, in the snapshot page we have done 305k damage versus 150k damage. Here we see Sentinels have done lots of damage. In this report I am fighting an armored Sauron player, and I know that I have lost this fight, but this isn't what I wanted to show you. I am running my strongest army composition, as you see here. I have these items, but what I wanted to show you is that against an armored Sauron player with this gear, like Uruk-hai Broadsword and Scout's Mail with Deafness, Brutal Helmet with Dread, Box of Knowledge, Lore of the Arcane Warrior. Alright, so the items aren't like perfectly fit for armored Sauron, but we all know how broken this commander is. Achieving this result is kinda okay. So this is what I'm trying to prove. It is kinda okay to have this result against armored Sauron. It is nothing to be ashamed of. I just wanted to show you how strong Isildur is even against armored Sauron. So these battle reports I have shared with you have covered how strong Isildur is in his ranged build. But let me share some battle reports with Isildur's melee build, which the Russian player community recommended to me. So shout out to you Russian players who you are about to see in the following battle reports. What you are seeing right now are the Russian players who have shown me this build, so thank you again for making me notice how viable this build is. So as you see, this Russian player is running the melee build for Isildur with Rangers, Dunedains and Heralds, and he's also sharing the gear of his, like this is what he has. I have checked out his gear, it is Cutlass, Fire Protection, Hysteria and Mend. The Gorbek is running this equipment. I can't remember the special effect of this, but still, that's not the point. The point is, it is a strong Gorbek with high respect levels, and this is the result. Isildur has achieved 250k damage versus 230k damage. That is kind of nice. Like, look at this, you can run this on a budget. Even free-to-play players can run this composition. It is very cheap and very economy-friendly. Here is a fight against a Khaldun player. They are almost at the same level. And this is the gear of this Khaldun player with high respect level. And here we see Isildur has done 150k versus 240k. And here is another Russian player with even better gear, just to show you how much potential is within the melee build. He has a gigantic hammer with Rend, Fire Protection, Aegis and Opportune Strike, and this is what I would like to run if I can get a hold of these items. This is insane. Very good gear, and this Witch King has melee might on his Cutlass, Shroud on his Ranger Shroud, melee vigor on his Brutal Helmet, and I think it was Bane of Dwarves on his Drums of Moria. And this is the damage Isildur has done, almost 300k versus 70k damage. So these reports are just proof to show how Isildur is viable even in his melee build. So you can decide, do you want to run Isildur in his ranged or melee build? You are versatile, and this is also something great. Being versatile will help you to counter certain commanders and army compositions. Thank you again to the Russian community. I wasn't aware of the melee build. You guys have given me great insight. Please continue to do so. I am learning more and more about this game on a daily basis. And there you go, guys. This is how you can get some value out of your Isildur. I hope this video was helpful. If yes, please let me know by leaving a like and consider subscribing. It is helping to push against the YouTube algorithm a lot. And that being said, I see you guys next time.